Hi there, I'm Lisa Redfern. This is Gingersnap, a conversation and a cookie with a creative Mainer. I'm here in my new hometown, Harpswell, with John Halpin, who is the creative director. No, what did you tell me?
Project coordinator.
Project coordinator, really, really close. Project coordinator of WHPW, a radio station here in Harpswell. And I'm going to let him talk about the radio station and the good work that they're doing there. But I do want to say this is episode 55 of Gingersnap, Conversation and a Cookie with a Creative Mainer. So, John, thanks for having me over at your house and tell them about the radio station.
Very nice to have you here. And WHPW is a public access community radio station. Brand new. In fact, 3 days ago, we were granted our operating license by the FCC. And that's the culmination. Yeah, it is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's this has been a 4-year journey from imagination to reality. And this particular step, converting our construction permit to a license, makes us an actual radio station. So, toward that end, the idea being local programming, and we've been trying to encourage people to step up and get on the air. On January 23rd, we're going to begin to phase in some locally produced programming. The first one being a morning show from 8 to 10 every morning. Host is Richard Casimir, and it'll be a variety of different things, some local news, interviews, musings.
And
probably some music. And a number of music show hosts will be coming along. In fact, one that some people in the Mid-Coast are probably familiar with from years ago is the Humble Farmer.
Oh, yeah.
And the Humble Farmer will be returning to the airwaves of the Mid-Coast on WHPW starting January 27th. So that's
Cool.
We think that's really cool. We are in the process of training people to do a show. And a show, what I mean by a show, it can be any number of things. A 2 or 3 minute piece on a subject that you have a passion about or an interest in. A 2 or 3 hour show on particular music genre is, and everything in between. We'd love to have local people get on the air in various ways. So we don't yet have our own production studios. We're in the process of planning to build those, hopefully this year. But what we are doing is we're setting up a program where we're going to put production pods in some of the local libraries. And what I mean by that is it'll be a little setup, sort of sequestered with some acoustic panels and microphone headsets, possibly a mixer, depending on the type of inputs we're going to need, and a recording device, probably a laptop computer. But the idea is once people are trained to use the equipment, they'll be able to go into their local library, sign up for time, and work on producing their show right there so that they don't have to make the investment in equipment in their home.
Got it.
If they, don't want to do that. And also, even when we have our production studios operational, there'll be limited availability depending on who's on the air and what's available to do a recorded show. So these will be a way to get out into the communities and have a little more engagement. Make it easier.
That's really cool.
Make it easier for people to access. And the other thing is that we've got a couple of people that live here some of the time and live other places some of the time, and they're producing shows. The technology today makes it incredibly accessible to do that. So, one guy's in Tennessee, one's in Texas. Humble Farmer right now is in Florida. So,
Right.
it's just, and every week they'll upload a show to.
That's really cool. So if someone in the area wants to get a hold of you, wants to get a hold of the station, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, there's a couple of ways. Our website, harpswellradio.org, has a lot of information and contact information on there also. You can give us a call at 833-6618. We're happy to talk to you about an idea. You can send us an email at harpswellradio@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you.
Cool. That's so great. That's exciting. I'm happy to hear that. And having just come from NERFA, which is the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance, where there were lots of radio hosts and fellow singer-songwriters, we always love hearing about a new station where we can send our music. So
bring it on.
Yeah. So, John, when did you first come to Maine?
Well, my first trip to Maine was in 1970. A couple of friends of mine and I took a trip to Nova Scotia, road trip. And we were in high school at the time and just had this idea, and we did it. It was before the interstate. So, we drove all the way up Route 1. But it was a great trip. And I've been coming back to Maine ever since that time. In the 1980s, I was here usually 3 or 4 times a year.
Nice.
And finally moved here full time in 2010. My partner Betsy is a Mainer. She grew up in Lewiston, and her family's been in Harpswell since 1960. So
nice. So you have an old connection. That's great. John, do you know your first word, or what do you think it would have been, might have been?
I have no idea what my first word was. In fact, the other night I was talking to my mom, who's 90 years old, and asked her if she remembered, and she said, "No, I don't really remember." I'm the middle of 3, and
me too.
So she thought about it, but and she's pretty sharp. But she said,
All right. Well, that segues nicely into my first word was cookie, and I know because I looked in my baby book. And so we are going to have cookies. These are from, believe it or not, the vegetable corner up here on the corner of 123 and Mountain Road. These are chewy molasses cookies. As you might already know, molasses and or Gingersnaps are my favorite.
Teresa, you did a good job on these.
I was going to ask you if you knew who made them. Thank you, Teresa. Okay, so we're going to keep eating while we talk.
I was in there the day before yesterday in the afternoon. I had to get something at the butcher counter, and they were sold out of cookies.
Uh-oh.
Which apparently happens
Bad news.
pretty much every
Probably
day.
happens a lot. Did you have a car when you were a kid or an adolescent that was really particularly cool that you want to tell us about?
Well, it wasn't my car.
That's okay.
My grandfather had a car that ended up with my older brother, and I got to drive it. But mostly it was his car until it was stolen. Oh. But it was a 1955 Chevy two-tone. It was cream-colored and green. It was a pretty cool little car. And now, we're talking about the 60s when we were 60s and early 70s when we were driving this around. But something that was a little bit unusual about it for the time was it had an automatic transmission. Oh. It was 1955. So I can't remember exactly what they called it. It was something like an Air Glide or some name like that. But it was a pretty cool little car. And then I had, I guess, my first real car that was my car was also a Chevrolet. It was a Biscayne. It was a 1967.
I think I can picture the Biscayne.
White with a black interior. It had bucket seats. And I had that when I first went to college until I moved on to a Land Rover.
That's quite a leap. So, are you a big reader?
Yes, okay. Very big reader, actually. Probably read 40 or 50 novels a year.
Nice.
read often just the headlines or an article or two, sometimes in depth on 10 or 12 news sites every morning.
Whoa.
Yeah, national and local and all those things. I'm a little bit of a news junkie. In fact, one of the things I'll be doing, hopefully on WHPW, are some documentaries.
Oh, nice.
I've read a lot of interesting things lately. And, what happens is I'll read something that's a long slog. You know how some books are, you read 3 or 4 pages a night and, you have to put it down.
You're like, I'm looking forward to this one being over.
And then I'll read a couple of those and then I'll want to move on to something that is just a quick.
Put down.
Yeah, kind of a quick read. So I'm in the middle of one of those right now with a James Lee Burke. I've read many of his works over the years, but they're a little bit of page turners. But the one that I came off of that sent me to a little lighter read was The Blind Astronomer's Daughter, which is pretty interesting story about early astronomers, and it's a fiction, but it's one of those historical fictions where there's a lot
where you learn a lot.
Yes, and so there was some very interesting information about 18th century astronomy, and that was a very interesting read. A little bit lighter one just before that was Tabloid City, Pete Hamill. Pete Hamill's written many novels over the years, but this one's a new one, and basically it's kind of a murder mystery, but it's set in the context of a newsroom at the end of newspaper days in New York City. It's a pretty interesting little read.
That's a good setting.
We talked a little bit earlier about flight behavior. Barbara Kingsolver last year. That was probably one of the reads that had the most impact on me. But just a couple of weeks ago, I finished Underground Airlines, which is Ben Winter, and what it is a kind of an alternate history story set in contemporary America where some of the states are still slaveholding states. Fairly dark, but very interesting read. And then the other thing I like to do in between is read books about food because I'm just into that. So this one here is one that I'm doing right now that is a really good one. It's called Precious Cargo. It's written by Dave DeWitt, who has written probably 30 different things on food history and chili peppers. So he's, but Precious Cargo is about how foods from the Americas changed the world. Pretty interesting read.
Yeah. Wow. So,
am I allowed to keep eating cookies?
Please. I as you can see, I finished mine. That was easy. If it was an album or a song that you felt that you have come back to a lot in your life, it's sort of a touchstone, what would that be?
Oh,
I know it's hard to narrow that stuff down.
Sure, there've been so many over the years, depending on the time of life, but. One I guess that I keep going back to now is it's a jazz tune. It's by Bob Mamet. It's called Green Street.
How does it make you feel when you hear it? Where does it take you?
It puts me in a really good space. It's pretty smooth. It's a little funky, but it's very centering for me. It's just good piece. I'll let you hear that.
I'd love to. Yeah. Okay, if a movie was made about your life, John Halpin, what genre would it be, and who would star as you, and who would you like them to have cast?
I'll tell you, that's a tough one. It would probably be some sort of travelogue, although not um, the lifestyles of the rich and famous type. You know, it would be pretty down to the bone. There'd be food involved for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It might at times have some chaotic aspects, a la F Troop, but who would play that? Well, Dennis Hopper's no longer available, but he probably could get
we
it.
could work on that.
But
who do you admire as an actor?
Well, there's so many. Edward Norton.
Oh yeah.
You know, Harvey Keitel.
That'd be a good combo.
Just go down the list, but I think Jeff Bridges, you know, his portrayal in The Big Lebowski might be able to do that. Well, you know, I mean, that's the sort of thing. There's so many different good ones, you know, and it's like, who am I to say, you know, but these guys should play my life, you know?
But you get to do this right now. I'm giving you permission to say. All right. Well, you can think about that. All right. So I'd like to thank you for having me. And if you guys want to get in touch with John Halpin, he's going to remind you in a second how to do that. And even though this is going to look backwards, I'm going to show you WHPW. Check it out. And you can go to the website. And I'll be back in a couple of weeks. And I did take a little bit of time off during the holidays to move from Durham to Harpswell. And we're just down the road.
Welcome to Harpswell.
So, well, thank you. So far, it's been a great adventure.
Do you know that Harpswell has more coastline than any other town in the United States?
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
216 miles.
216 miles. So
Yep.
I now live in a town that has more coastline than any other town in the United States. Oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
It's also got the oldest median age of any town over 3,000 residents in the state of Maine.
Well.
And the state of Maine has the oldest median age of any state in the United States. Yes, so just FYI.
We're getting old and happy here in Maine. All right, thank you, John. Tell them once again how to reach you.
WHPW, harpswellradio.org, or harpswellradio@gmail.com.
All right. Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to try and sing this in the closing here in my horsey laryngitis voice. This has been Gingersnap.